Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What does it mean to win at life? Is it wealth, status, power? No. That's fleeting, that's arbitrary. That's a game you play when you're young and often ends in resentment and bitterness. But at 70, if you've made it that far, you're playing a different game entirely. Pain is a tyrant, and as you age, it becomes an ever-present reality for most people. But it doesn't have to be. The ability to wake up at 70 and not have pain be the first thing on your mind is a sign that you've done something right. It means you've taken care of yourself. It means you've built a body that still serves you instead of betraying you. Most people don't realize how fragile their physical autonomy is until it's too late. They take movement for granted, they let their bodies deteriorate, and they assume that weakness and suffering are just part of aging. But they're not inevitable. Yes, time wears you down, but discipline can fight back. Strength training, mobility work, a proper diet, these things matter more with every passing year. And if you've kept them up, if you've maintained the habit of respecting your body, you've granted yourself a freedom that many lose. Because what happens when you don't? Your world shrinks. The things you once enjoyed become burdens. Stairs become mountains. A simple walk becomes a struggle. And eventually life itself becomes something to endure rather than something to participate in. That's not a position you want to find yourself in. If at 70 you can get up in the morning and move freely without feeling trapped in your own body, you've achieved something remarkable. You've avoided a fate that claims far too many people. You've given yourself the ability to engage with the world on your own terms. That is victory. It's a sign that you didn't just let yourself fall apart, that you fought against decay, and that you respected the only vessel you were given to navigate life. At 70, the presence of people who genuinely want to be around you is a sign that you've lived a life worth something. It means you haven't pushed everyone away. It means you've nurtured relationships rather than neglected them. Because the harsh reality is this: many people reach old age and find themselves utterly alone. And it's rarely by accident. It's the result of years of neglecting the people who mattered, failing to make amends, or prioritizing the wrong things. Relationships take effort. They take humility, patience, and the willingness to admit when you're wrong. Too many people go through life assuming that love, whether from a spouse, children, or friends, is something permanent, something that doesn't require maintenance. But love fades when it's taken for granted. People drift away when they feel unseen, unheard, or unappreciated. And by the time regret sets in, the damage is often irreversible. If, at 70, you still have people in your life who laugh with you, who check in on you, who want to spend time with you, it's because you've invested in those relationships. You've shown kindness, you've made sacrifices, you've apologized when necessary. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The ability to maintain strong bonds is a testament to emotional strength, to the understanding that life is not meant to be lived alone. When you're young, you think you have time. You assume you'll always be able to fix things later. But later comes faster than you think. If you reach old age and still have people who love you, who respect you, and who genuinely enjoy your presence, you've won something more valuable than any material success. You've built a life that others still want to be part of, and that is a victory few truly achieve. Reaching 70 and still being able to learn something new is one of the clearest signs that you haven't let life defeat you. The mind is like a muscle. If you stop using it, it weakens. If you stop challenging it, it atrophies. People assume that aging means an inevitable decline in mental sharpness, but much of that decline isn't due to age itself, it's due to neglect. It happens when people stop engaging with the world, when they decide they already know enough, when they close themselves off to new information and experiences. Curiosity is what keeps the mind alive. If, at 70, you can still read a book and have it change your perspective, if you can still listen to someone younger than you and learn from them, if you can still pick up a new skill, even if it's something small, you are keeping yourself engaged with life. And that matters. Because the moment you decide that you know everything you need to know, the moment you stop asking questions, you begin the slow process of mental decay. Aging is inevitable, but stagnation is a choice. The people who remain mentally sharp into old age are the ones who refuse to let their minds sit idle. They challenge themselves. They take on new hobbies, learn new technologies, and engage in discussions that force them to think. They don't dismiss new ideas simply because they're unfamiliar. They remain students of life, rather than becoming prisoners of their past knowledge. If at 70 you are still learning, still questioning, still growing in understanding, you are not only keeping your mind strong, you are staying connected to the world around you. That ability is rare, and it's one of the surest signs that you are truly winning at life. At 70, Having something that still feels like work is one of the strongest indicators that you haven't given up on life. Work is not just about making money, it's about purpose, it's about responsibility. It's about having something that demands your effort and attention, something that gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. The people who age the worst are the ones who retire not just from their jobs, but from life itself. They step away from any meaningful pursuit, and in doing so, they let themselves deteriorate. The human mind and body are designed for effort. The moment you remove all challenge, all responsibility, you begin to weaken. You see this in people who spend their retirement doing nothing of substance, watching television all day, sitting around, waiting for time to pass. They lose their sharpness, their energy, their sense of direction. Without work, without a meaningful pursuit, life loses structure. And when life loses structure, it begins to fall apart. Work doesn't have to mean a traditional job. It can be anything that engages you, anything that requires effort and brings value to others. Maybe it's mentoring younger people, fixing things around the house, tending a garden, or writing. The form doesn't matter. What matters is that you still have something to contribute, something that keeps you engaged and moving forward. The people who remain active, who still have a sense of duty, who still take on tasks and responsibilities, they don't just live longer, they live better. They stay relevant, they stay sharp, and they maintain a sense of dignity. If 70 you still have work, real work, you are not just coasting through life. You are still in the game, and that makes all the difference. At 70, if you can still laugh, really laugh, you've held on to something that many people lose far too soon. Life is difficult. It's filled with suffering, disappointment, and loss. The older you get, the more you've seen friends passing away, dreams falling apart, the gradual decline of the body. If you let it, all of this can turn you bitter, cynical, and resentful. Many people reach old age weighed down by their past, unable to find joy in the present. But if you can still laugh, it means you haven't been crushed. It means you still see the absurdity of life, the little moments of humor that make it worth enduring. Laughter is a signal that you haven't given up. It's a sign that, despite everything, you can still find lightness in the world. It means you're not consumed by regret or sorrow, that you haven't locked yourself inside your own misery. People who can still laugh at 70 are often the ones who have learned to let go. They've accepted that life is imperfect, that suffering is inevitable, but that doesn't mean you stop enjoying the ride. There's a certain wisdom in humor, the ability to laugh, to take things lightly, to not carry every burden with the weight of tragedy that's strength. It means you've maintained perspective, that you can see beyond the hardships and still recognize beauty, absurdity, and joy. The people who lose their ability to laugh become rigid, stuck in their ways, unable to embrace the unpredictability of life. But those who hold on to humor, who still find reasons to smile, have something that no amount of money or success can replace. At 70, if you can still laugh, you are not just surviving, you are still truly alive. At 70, if you are not haunted by regret, you have achieved something that many people never do. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. It creeps up in the quiet moments, in the stillness of the night, in the pauses between conversations. It reminds you of the things you should have said, the people you should have forgiven, the chances you should have taken. By the time most people realize the weight of their unspoken apologies and missed opportunities, it's too late to fix them. A life free from overwhelming regret isn't a life without mistakes. It's a life where mistakes were confronted, owned, and learned from. It's a life where wounds weren't left to fester, where people weren't discarded over pride, where the important things were recognized before they slipped away. Everyone fails. Everyone hurts others, intentionally or not. Everyone makes choices they later wish they could undo. The difference is in how those failures are handled. Do you bury them? Ignore them? Let them grow into something that poisons your later years? Or do you face them, make amends where you can, and come to peace with the past? The people who reach old age without being haunted by regret are those who have been honest with themselves and with others. They've had the difficult conversations. They've apologized when necessary. They've taken risks instead of playing it safe out of fear. They didn't let life pass them by while they hesitated. If at 70 you can sit in silence and not be tormented by all the things you left undone, you have won something that no amount of success can give you: peace. And peace at the end of the road is what truly matters.